4 things I did right when starting my business, and they're things that you can learn from. They're things that I'm happy to say I feel like I did right, and they're things that you can do yourself to make sure that you get off to the right start when starting your business. And it's a follow-on to the previous video I did where I talk about the 3 mistakes that I made that I think if I didn't make them, I'd be a lot further along. So make sure, if you haven't seen that video, make sure to go back and watch that one as well, because there's a lot of insights in there, and it'll give a bit of context to this video. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Jimmy Mitchell from My Online Guy. I have a 7-figure marketing agency, but I'm a small business owner like the rest of us, deal with the trials and tribulations of running a business, taxes, staff, complaints, clients, all that kind of stuff. And I'm really here on one mission. I want to make sure that businesses don't get ripped off when they do marketing. And we help businesses do more with less. And really, if you enjoy these kinds of videos and enjoy learning, make sure to like and subscribe to the videos, and make sure that the reason you do that is to spread the word so we can help more businesses not get ripped off when they do it. So straight into it, guys. The reason I'm making this video is because there's a lot of videos out there on the mistakes that are made when starting a business. You know, the mistakes I made when starting a startup, the mistakes I made when starting a coffee van. No one talks about the things they do right. And I feel like sometimes you can learn just as much about the things you do right than you do the things that you do wrong. And I have a pretty eclectic background when it comes to business, and I cover that off in a different video in a bit of my backstory. So that's here if you want to watch that. But I cover that off in that video, and I come from a very unique position from a marketing agency perspective, because I worked in the agricultural sector for almost 10 years. And then before that, for about 8 years, I was in the Navy. So very, very different skill set. And I took some of that and put it into the business. So I'm going to talk about the 4 things. I was originally going to be 3, but I had one more that I had to add. So make sure to tune to the end to catch the 4th one, because I think the 4th one is the secret to running a successful business. But again, I don't know if these are the right way to do things. These are just the way I did them, but I feel like they've set us on a good trajectory. And if you have any other ones that you want to add to this list that could help others, leave them in the comments and I'll cover them off in a future video. So the first thing I did right when starting this business is when we hired people, we hired for culture at first and everything second. So I talk about this in previous videos. I'm a big believer that you can teach anyone just about anything. If you've got enough tenacity and you've got enough wherewithal, you can teach pretty much anything to anyone. I didn't finish year 10 and I still managed to do pretty well. And it's because I taught myself everything I needed to know. Everything. We are in the unique position in the 21st century where we have access to every single bit of information that was ever created, or most of it. And because of that, it's a lot easier to teach someone how to do something than say 25 years ago. So I read a book when I was younger called Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And he talks about how true leaders, they lead by example. And in the military, they'll traditionally eat last. They'll let everyone eat first and empower everyone first, and then they'll be the last one to act. This is the same situation. We hired specifically for culture here because, like I said in the previous video, one of the mistakes we made is we weren't ourselves. So I wanted to make sure that the people we hired here at My Online Guy were themselves and were wanting to be a part of the culture that we're creating here at My Online Guy. Because, like I said, teach the skills, you can't teach the culture. The culture has to align with their values and things like that, and their beliefs about life and how they operate and things like that. And we're so lucky now that we have a team that is perfectly aligned culture-wise and really enjoys being in this environment. And that's made a huge difference to our success or failure. It's probably one of the things that I'm the most proud of that we've done right, is we've taken several people now that maybe they weren't the most highly skilled or the most technically proficient at what they did, but they had the right attributes to be that way. And we have some very, very talented people within our business now that we have trained and helped empower to get better at what they do, and gotten out of their way, quite frankly. But the only reason that was able to happen is because culture was paramount to that. We hired for people and their beliefs and the way they fit into our culture, and we protect our culture very, very fiercely here. So that was the first thing I felt like we did right when we started this business, is because that was the thing from day one. We hired for culture, even though, like I said in the previous video, we didn't necessarily, we hired too fast at the start. The people we did hire, they were a good fit. It was just the wrong time, which is my fault. And then the second thing I felt like we did right when we started My Online Guy, was we started the business as if it was worth seven figures from the very start. So we built this business from the ground up to with all the pros, with the thought that eventually this would be something that's like seven figures. That was our thought when we did the branding, when we got the office, when we did the website, when we did our presentations. Everything was based around where we want to be in the future, and then we kind of grew into it. So I think that's something we did right, and that's a subjective thing because that's kind of like a fake it till you make it thing. But the way we did it, we tried to do it with a bit of sincerity. But if you plan where you want to be and then build the infrastructure and the foundations you have to support that, then it's a lot easier to get to that endpoint than it is if you just sort of fly by wire and just wing it as you go. So we didn't cut any costs at the start to start this business, is probably where I'm getting at, is we probably spent about $60,000 of our own money starting this agency. And it's a big myth in the agency space that you can start it, bootstrap it, which you can. But we spent 60 grand because we built it in a way that to support where we are now. And that made a huge difference because we didn't have to wheel back on ourselves every time we hit a new key benchmark, like 20,000 a month, 50,000 a month, things like that. So that was a big thing that we did right, is we built the business based on where we wanted to be, not on where we were at the time. So we kind of future-proofed it in some way. And now, look, we're not going to get past seven figures anytime soon. So it's set us up well. We're going to sit here for a while, and we have everything in place for that to work. So the third thing that we did right as a business, I feel, at the very start, is I made a conscious effort to build relationships from day one. And I'm going to tell you a bit of a story here. So when I first started the agency, I went over to a conference called the Digital Marketers Australia Conference, run by Steve Ezekis. Sorry if I've butchered your name, Steve, but really, really good guy. I'll link to an interview I did with him right here in a card. Really, really good guy, intelligent dude. Anyway, went to his conference, and it was just me at that point. Me and Cam was just doing a couple of days a week, but it was really just me. And I went over there and said, look, if I'm going to spend the money to fly to Melbourne, and I'm going to spend the money the conference costs, I'm going to get absolutely everything I can out of it. Even though I knew a lot of the stuff that was there from a search engine perspective, I was like, I've got to go here and I'm going to get bang for buck. So I went and I met everyone. Anyone that was willing to talk to me, I chatted to. You know, other marketing agency owners, other business owners, anyone, the concierge at the front desk. I've got to like extend my network out. And building those relationships with people still to this day gives me a tangible benefit. You know, I have a whole network of people that I can lean on to ask for advice, which is awesome. And they do that in return. And I also have a referral network that consistently feeds referrals to us when they're too busy to do the work, which is awesome as well. But I think it's the way you go about doing that that makes the difference. So a lot of people go to events like this and they posture and position. They go in there and they pretend to be something they're not. I remember it very distinctly. I remember walking into like a little circle of people that were talking, introducing myself, and they were talking about how good things are. And I was like, oh man, I'm just starting, you know, like it's not that good for me. You know, I'm still paying, I'm still working my way out of it. And instantly the mood changed in the group and everyone took their guard down. Like, oh yeah, it's hard when you start. You know, I remember when I started, you know, they were saying that to cover face, but they were in the same position as me. And I think if you go in there with a facade that you don't need anyone's help, then you're not going to get anyone helping you. Whereas if you walk into networking events and things like this and you are genuinely sincere about wanting to provide value and hoping for value in return, then people will bat for you. People will vouch for you. People will try and advocate on your behalf. And that's always worked for me. And it doesn't matter what I've done. That's always been like the trump card I can lean on, is I'm really good at building relationships with people because I just try and be honest and sincere and just try and be helpful. And that has helped us a lot as a business, is we have a whole network of people I can just call and have a good chat to about if I'm struggling with something or I need help or advice, or someone's, I've got a question. I generally know someone in my network that knows someone that will be able to help me, which is worth, you know, if you could put a dollar figure on that network, it'd have to be worth millions and millions of dollars to us. You know, I try not to take advantage of it because, you know, not everyone, you know, I don't want to burn out people by just hitting them up all the time. But, you know, it's nice to go to a conference now and know like 15 people there, 20 people there, and have a chat to them and catch up and have a beer and things like that. It's really good. I've made some really, really, really awesome friends through doing this. Norquay over at Prosperity Media, a good friend of mine. We chat regularly. Charlie over at Shout Out, Callum over at Optimize. There's all these guys that I know really well from doing this. That is where the value is in that relationship. And it's opened a lot of doors too, because we've gotten access to people and things and done things that we wouldn't traditionally have access to given our size. So that's really cool. And I think that's one of the things we did really well. And that leads on to the last thing I want to talk about, which is number 4. If you stayed this long, you're going to get the secret tip. I preach this a lot, but I don't think many businesses do this well. And that is providing value, genuine value, without any expectation of return. So this video is a very good example of that. I don't make this video to drum up business. I genuinely want to make sure that people don't get ripped off when they do marketing. And I can say that with conviction because I actually do. I hate the idea that people are out there getting ripped off. And pragmatically, I hate starting a conversation with a business and having to listen to 15 minutes of them, how they got ripped off for 10 grand from marketing. It just gives us all a bad name. And when it's done properly, it's a super effective tool. So I create this content, I create the shorts, the TikToks and the reels and everything, all the content that's online, all the team's content, all the little extras we do is about providing value with a no genuine expectation of return. Just going, I'm going to put this in the world, and if it helps people, that's awesome. If someone comes and uses us, that's even better, but that's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to just provide genuine value. And what you find when you actually do that is that everything gets easier. The social media gets easier because all you have to do is provide value, and anyone that's in a business is naturally doing that. So you can use your social media as an extension of providing the value you do on the ground. So the social media gets easier, the conversations get easier because you immediately disarm people when they genuinely believe you are just providing value. Honestly, it's been the secret weapon to our success is the fact that when I talk to people about their marketing, I try and provide upfront value, even if they're not going to use us. Like if they're not going to use us, or they're too small for us, or they're too big for us, or whatever, I still try and give them some value for taking the time to talk to me. And you don't know how that comes back to you. The amount of times I have gone, oh, well, I feel good about helping them, because that's what I do get in return is I feel good about helping people. In 6 months, you get a phone call going, oh, I spoke to John. You had a conversation with him. He's got a concreting business, and you spoke to him, and I've got a massive business and I need help. And he said, you're a good guy. The amount of times that's happened to us, it could almost be an actual channel for marketing. I would never count on it because it's not repeatable, but being a good person and just really going out of your way to help people and provide value is a very, very strong marketing strategy that in this space, especially in the marketing space, doesn't happen often. And I think that's the secret weapon here. That's probably the thing I'm hiring for culture. And this are probably the 2 things I feel like we've done right and without exception. And I think if I was starting a business again, those are definitely the 4 things that I would make sure that I did again. And then I would not do the mistakes I made, and I'd be probably a lot further along, probably sitting on a beach somewhere, sold the business. But, you learn from the mistakes, you learn from the wins and the things you've done right. And hopefully someone that's watching this, that's watched both, now has the tools to be able to explore and unpack this stuff. So when they start their business, they're better equipped to get success. So guys, leave your comments in there. If there's other things you've done as a business owner that you felt you've done right, that other people can learn from, leave them in the comments. We're a big community, sharing community here. Provide that value with no expectation of return, folks. It takes like 10 minutes to write a decent comment. And that may mean the difference between someone succeeding and failing. So you've got to do it. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you haven't watched one of the mistakes yet, come on, off you go. Go and watch it. It's over there. That's on the mistakes that I made as a business owner when starting. You can learn from them as well. But if you've watched both, thank you so much. And I will talk to you next time.